I'm Demmel, the Northern Plains Region Representative, and I work with the Resource Stewardship Evaluation tool and promoting that through Nacd and with districts. So today we have Lauster. He's the National Sustainable Agriculture Lead for NRCS. And he is going to introduce the tool for you, and we will have a couple other presenters who will talk a little bit about their interaction with the tool as users of the tool. Aaron?
So obviously we've been talking about soil health and sustainability and conservation planning. So what we tried to do with resource stewardship was really how do we bring those concepts together. So about 5 years ago, I started working on this. We went out and talked to farmers about sustainability and what requests were being made of them. And so one person told me he had to do 8 different surveys for all the folks he sold to. Because most of the people that are buying from you now, and I'm going to talk fast because I grew up partially in New York, but I also need time. So, so what he said though is with those surveys, those folks all have sustainability goals. We hear about McDonald's announces their range-free ones. Walmart has their sustainability goals. Everyone you're selling to now has sustainability goals. A lot of them had no idea what they were doing when they came up with those sustainability goals. Are those achievable? Was that something their farmers could even do? I think McDonald's is finding that out now with their cage-free discussion. So what we, as NRCS bodies, our job is to help farmers, but part of that too is educating the people that have these demands on farmers about natural resources and the environment. So we came up with a way to do that. We looked at how do we provide technical assistance to farmers. That's through our conservation planning process that we've talked about. So how can we improve that process and provide more information to farmers that you can then use to work with the folks that you're selling to? So that's what we got with our tool. So, so everyone else was smarter than me on how to use the clicker. There we go. Okay, so basically for resource stewardship, we've got 47 resource concerns, as Dave was talking about, or 46, somewhere in that range. And that's a lot. And so coming up with a quick form that we can help people talk about 47 was a lot. So we went through and looked at what are the environmental metrics that farmers are being asked for from these other organizations out there. And so we pulled those from our resource concerns list. So we're already working with you on that information, collecting that information with you. It just normally sits in a file somewhere in our offices. So how can we make that information more useful to you? So that's where we lined up our key metrics. We lined up with those resource concerns to look at how you're doing on that sustainability line. Of course, this is part of the conservation planning process, so it is protected information. So whether you're a district employee, an NRCS employee working with the farmers, you will not release that information unless the farmer requests that. I did just click it now. Okay, so what is our goal? We want to develop a framework for stewardship recognition, and that was our really initial goal out there. How do we sell and talk about what farmers are doing, the good conservation work? When we talk about soil health champions, how do we get recognition for that though? And that was something that when we met with Walmart, we met with Smuckers, we met with Kellogg's, they're all like, we want to help and talk, everybody wants to talk about a premium for environmental work and conservation work and environmental services, but they said there's not really a good spot that shows when have they met something that I can give a premium to. So that's what we wanted to look at, is how do we create this stewardship recognition level that we can say, if the farmer's meeting this level, they're doing a good job, and that's something that you should be able to recognize. Not only from the corporate partners are out there, but we also look at it, and we talked earlier here about our internal USDA partners. We've talked with the Farm Service Agency about farm loans. They have the ability to give a better premium for folks that are conservation. They just don't know how to define it. So that's what we looked at. How can we define who's doing a good job that should get that? Same thing with RMA on insurance. They have the ability to give you a lower insurance rate, but they needed to know what does good conservation look like that we can use to define it. So that's one of the things we really looked at. So we were looking at those metrics. Part of it was the export markets too. We worked with the Soybean Council. They're trying to improve their exports to Europe. And Europe says we need environmental metrics. And our answer was, we don't have those easily available. So how can we make those available to make those usable for farmers so that they can take advantage of those market items out there? Of course, with districts and NRCS, we always want to make sure that we're technically credible and making the best decisions we can. We also want to improve the efficiency. So we talked about CDSI. So the tool that I'm going to show you today, over in the other room, is basically what we built to test this out. Our goal is this will roll into CDSI, so this will just be part of everybody's daily business. You're going to collect information behind the scenes, and then you can print it out for the farmers if that's what they're interested in. But we will roll it in. Obviously, it's a little clunkier now because that integration hasn't happened, but that's what we wanted to get it out there. We wanted farmers to be able to respond to it. We wanted staff to be able to respond, what's useful, what's efficient, and what's not. And then we've been working with these other partners like the Walmarts and the Targets and all those other entities out there. What are they looking for in this environmental information? And then the other thing is we want to make ourselves more efficient. How do we look at our program rankings? And what we do now with each of the districts, we look at that local ed process. And we get a lot of questions out there, and some of them are honestly better than some are worse. And so it's a lot of process out there. So how can we help provide districts more information about the applications that are coming in, and a better way to look at and prioritize what applications we're funding and that type of information in the conservation planning context. So, if you've ever seen anything about resource stewardship, you've seen this. And so what this is, and it's really small, the darker bars up there are the major areas that we're looking at. If you're familiar with our old SWAPA requirements for conservation planning, so we have soil management, water quality, pesticide management, air quality, water quantity, and habitat health. And then within each of those sub-bars are the things that are under them. So soil management, we have water erosion, wind erosion, and soil carbon. And we talk about soil health, and I know Dave's team, we've been working with them. These are our basic metrics we've traditionally looked at. And we're working on building new ones into that as the soil health things come online. We have a lot of regionally great soil health metrics right now. We're trying to bring in a national tool and bring out in soil health even stronger than we have it. Water quality we break down. What are those different loss pathways? Phosphorus, leaching, whether that's surface water, sediment. And then, so most of these you're going to understand pesticide management. Pesticide pathways, irrigation is what we're looking at for water quality, and then air quality and habitat health. So these are what we've been working on, and the tool evaluates the farm based on each of these criteria. Oh, sorry. So before we jump, so the important part of that one is the blue line. So the blue line is where you're trying to get to. And so you look at all of these parts, and you're like, well, there's no numbers up here. It doesn't tell me my soil erosion is 2 tons or 3 tons. And this is what we found when we were working with the farmers out there, is that there are the progressive end folks want all the data and all the numbers behind there. But the average farmer, they're wanting to come in, and we can talk to them quickly where are their opportunities right now? Where are they doing great? So in this case, doing great. Soil erosion, not a problem. But soil carbon, not doing cover crop right now. It's corn soybean rotation, no-till, so doing well, but maybe could be doing better. So there's an opportunity there. Some water issues, some opportunities for improvement, looking at nutrient management, cover crops, things like that. Doing great on pesticide management, had a really good plan. Irrigation wasn't irrigating, so it was doing great there. Air quality, though, gets back into that soil carbon, that rotation that they have. How are they doing there? Can we move them up above that? And habitat health, we're doing great. So, sorry. So where are we at right now? What we've done is we've implemented cropland evaluation. We've implemented pasture and range. We can take standalone tool information, so if you already have your Russell 2 information run, or other tools, Comet, other things, we can incorporate that information into the tool. We're going to roll out here in March forestry, so for all of the New England folks that have been complaining we don't have forestry, and then that'll come out. We're going to look at the farmstead, and then any associated land used for wildlife and other issues like that. How many evaluations have we completed? You can see we've completed a fair amount. But when you think about the NRCS world and the district world, we're doing about 100,000 conservation plans a year. Which is the other thing when we build this, we want a tool that could handle that when we get everyone trained and up and running. So, so we're making a dent in that, but we really still need to do more. And so this is what we're focused on this year, is going to be doing more and more training out there. So, how are we utilizing it? And everyone needs human Bennett quotes, so I'll let you read on your own. So, big thing is stewardship recognition. And so this is a farm in Maryland. What we're looking at is the corn, soybean, and then squash and wheat and other things. So it's a fairly diverse farm out there. It's a U-pick, which is why all the people in the picture, and the corn maze in the back. But what they're worried about is people on site every year. This is a person that's doing a lot of conservation effort, would be a soil health champion, I'm sure, if somebody asked him. But what it came down to, we did the evaluation, clearly crossed all the bars. When we talk about who we want to recognize for doing that good stewardship job, these are the types of farms we want to recognize, and these are the stories we want to trumpet out there. So as a tool to use that for recognition, we're really seeing a lot of advantages. The other part is then how do we communicate that and as part of the conservation planning? So I'm going to say first of all that the bars I've created up here are not exactly what this farm looks like because I wanted to show some variability. But someone in this room, this is their farm in Delaware. He may have been up here earlier and I didn't get the memo about wearing a burgundy shirt. But in general though, we looked at the operation and you can see on the quick list, soil management doing pretty well, but there's some opportunities there. Water quality, again, doing well, but there's opportunities there. Pesticide management, doing a great job. Air quality, again, it's that how are we keeping the carbon on site. And habitat health, somebody likes to hunt. So when we pull that down, but when we have this discussion out here, this was actually implemented by the landowner, and then we met with who he rents the ground from, too. So we talked to the farmer about this, because we talked about, well, what could he do to improve it and get him across those blue lines that we see there? And really adding a cover crop was going to meet almost every issue that we saw out here. So when we in the tool, we can do that. We can add different practices. We can add different management practice things. We can, change the nutrient management rate, things like that, and see what kind of effects they have. So when we added a cover crop to this, that one practice, because it completed the system that he's got, really pushed him across all of those blue lines. So then we taught, our person, not over there, but talked to this farmer about, well, what can I add cover crop to this operation? Is that something that you can do? And the farmer said, yeah, of course, I can do that. I do it on my own ground, I just don't do it on the people I rent from. And that's what we see a lot. And we talk about, more and more, 50% of the farmland is not farmed by the folks that own it. We have to improve that conversation and understanding of the benefits of conservation. So this was one where it didn't take much convincing. he was happy to do it. He just didn't know how to talk to his landowners about it because they're going to see during this winter there's stuff out there, which we all think is a good thing in the soil health arena. But folks are used. It's the same problem we had with no-till. It was messy. It wasn't this clean, nice, flat table. So how did they have that conversation? And that's what he was talking about, is how did he have that conversation with the folks? So it was a really good tool for both folks to come to the same understanding of what kind of effects that they wanted to have. I'm being obviously encouraged to go faster. So this is another example here. But this was, when we give DCs and district staff any kind of tool, they will always go use it in ways we didn't intend. So our pilot was to find out those people who were at that close line and the blue line and where that blue line should be. And they used it on this guy, mainly because this is a problem that they could solve. And so the farmer came in, he was going to lose his lease on this. It was leased by a canal district. You can see why. That the canal district was concerned about water quality, protecting that, projecting that environment in the public. This is in New Jersey. That was not what he wanted to see. And he did corn, soybeans, but he wasn't, there was nothing really, he wasn't doing no-tills, conventional till, all that. So our DC talked to him about the different options. Could we put a no-till system in there that could be more effective for him? He didn't have materials. He was in a part of New Jersey where there wasn't a lot of other equipment around. He was going to have a hard time getting it there. But what he did have was hay baling equipment. And within that part of New Jersey, there were a lot of small pony operations that needed hay. So we talked about, is that an alternative that he could use, still economically feasible for him to keep the ground? And so we ran the model through again. And so if we went to a hay system, we could cross all the blue bars. We could get there with a no-till system, but it was going to take more economic input on him, and he wasn't sure whether he could keep that. This is a pretty small operation. So what he then took that to the district, the canal district, not his local district, and said, I can meet what you want, which is that better water quality out here. But I can't do it on the lease I have. It's a year-to-year lease. I mean, you're not going to plant hay on a year-to-year lease. And they said, this looks good. And he could show on this, and we didn't go with it. So we talked to him about it, helped coach him. But he went and talked to the district and said, here's what I can do. Your NRCS has evaluated it. This is what it can achieve. They gave him a 5-year lease. Now that was the first 5-year lease they had given. But now they were understanding why that was a benefit that they could talk about more conservation in their farming when they gave people more ability to make those kind of decisions. So as a communication tool, that's what we really wanted to focus on, that producers can be empowered with their own information, and that's what we want to push for. Okay. So also this lets us talk about what we do. And to be honest, we're kind of bad at it. You know, the effects of conservation, what does Congress get for billions of dollars? They're always asking that. And part of it's because we do a lot, and it's so varied and it's so spread across the country, it's hard to talk about large effects. We've got information now that we've captured, and a lot of this right now we just sit in a file. It's really hard to do that. How do we talk about that? So this is an Iowa study. They did the RSET right after they did the National Water Quality Initiative. So the good thing is we can compare on what the initiative without RSET would look like and what planning with the RSET would look like. Blue is their benchmark on each of the sites. So you get in nitrogen, carbon, sediment, and phosphorus. Green is where the National Water Quality Initiative planning improved them. So one thing I can say right away is you can say conservation works. Voluntary conservation makes big reductions. You know, we're seeing 40, 50, 60% reductions in nutrient losses. But if we can move people to that blue line, that's when we start looking at, we can see, you know, even more significant numbers out there. And this, I can take to Congress and say, you know, these are the, you know, we spent X dollars, these are the types of reductions that we're seeing. You're getting value for your money, and that's what they always want to hear. So, things we can do as we have that information available. The other thing is we can talk about what we're doing out there. This is also, you know, we have lots of files out there, but it's hard at the national level to talk about the effects. Where are we doing well, where are we not doing well? You can see this is that same Iowa study. Folks that were in that, you know, soil erosion, we are doing great. We've been doing it for 80 years. You'd hope we're doing pretty good. But, you know, when soil carbon, and this is that soil health, you know, that Dave's talking about, we're kind of below the mark there. When we're helping move people up, but we still have a ways to go there. Water quality is an area where we have a hard time. We haven't had good tools. It's hard for us to know. Is a filter strip going to solve the problem here or not? And that's where we use the tool now that we can look at various alternatives and help get to there. Pesticides was interesting because it looks like we're doing reasonably okay and moving people up. What the data showed us was either we're doing a really good job with pesticides and the people are up here, or we're doing a really poor job and they're not doing anything. And so it averaged out okay. So those are things you got to watch for. But it helps us understand that it was a state specific. Some states were doing a lot of pesticides and some were doing very little. So it helps us as managers and you as district managers, what are we doing? What are my staff focusing on? What kind of effects are we seeing on the farms? And maybe we need to have an initiative for pesticides in our area because that's a problem. Or maybe we're doing a good job. And so we can make better management decisions as managers out there. So, go ahead. So, partnerships. Now, obviously, these are our best partners. And what we want to do with the tool. So the tool right now, you may or may not know it. If you have NRCS staff or district staff that have access to Toolkit, they already have access to this tool. They just don't know. So the way we built the tool originally is it pulls information from Toolkit. So if they have a conservation plan, they can immediately pull up their operation. They can do the entire evaluation. Any district employee that has that basic Toolkit access can access it. Now, the districts that don't have that access, we've been getting them access, either through the normal process, working with state cons to try to get them a computer that will have that access. We're also working on making the tool available to anyone, really. Our biggest problem with that is right now, to make it more efficient, we pull over personal information from the clients, like their conservation plan. Obviously, if we make it open to anybody, we can't do that. So that's been our hiccup there. We wanted an efficient tool, and then we're bringing up and making it available to everyone. When we make it to everyone, they'll be able to outline their own fields and do their own management on it, but they won't be using clients' personal information. So again, we do take that very seriously in making sure that no one can get access to a farmer's personal information. But that is our goal, is to have an open tool. That is, we'll be working on programming that part this summer. It'll be probably a late fall or winter when we would get that the open tool available. But right now, any district employee that can do Toolkit can access this tool. We've also been doing training. We have web-based training right now out there. We had a number of district folks work on that. I've also been doing some regional trainings where we're kind of training the trainers, and district staff have attended that. So definitely, as I work with state cons to set up training, they'll be inviting district folks to that, but they can also access the web-based program. And there's a lot of resources on the eConnect site, so we can get them access to the tools. As I said before, we're trying to work with folks on how is this useful to farmers. And if it's useful to farmers, like, they can use this information to do the other things that they also need to do. So that's been a broad, folks, and I won't explain all of these programs, but you can see, we've kind of tried to do a broad range. Some of that's state agencies, some of that's corporate interest, some of that's just different partnerships there. So ones I want to point out, these will be on the next slide. So the key thing this is the other really cool thing that we've been working on right now that is now going into effect is the easy button. Now right now, if you have to do an environmental program and you work with NRCS and you do any of these other state programs, you have to fill out the same information 18 times on each of the different programs that you're working on. What we've been working on is how do we make that data shareable? Not that we're going to share it, but you as the farmer, what we want to have is the easy button. So you have a management software that you're keeping your information in. I want you to have, you want to participate in this program, I want you to have the easy button where you click it, it ships to us, it runs for us, and then we can give you back the evaluation that you've done. Or you entered a program with us, and now you've been asked to participate in some other program, like say Field to Market or something like that. You push the easy button, and it ships it to them, so that you're not having to reduplicate all that information all the time. And so that's what we've been working on. We're going to hopefully have that. Privacy is obviously a big concern for us. But right now you can export your information. Well, in March, you'll be able to export your information out to other folks that might want to use it. And then this summer we'll be able to import information back from other folks. So some of the really cool programs. So our first partner on doing the import and export information is Field to Market. So that one, if you aren't in one of those programs, I know some of the soil health champions are, we're really working on how we merge those together and be able to share. And if you think about what they're doing, they're really looking at sustainability from a output per unit of like bushel or something like that. Where we manage here, we help farmers manage the ground. We normally look at things as output per acre. And so those are both things that both talk about sustainability, and you can tweak them both in different ways to improve your sustainability. But really, those two things together tell the more full story of sustainability, both on your farm and regionally. So we really like the partnerships that we're building with them to be able to talk about the full sustainability picture. Vermont is our first state that really went for this in a big way, and that's because of the Lake Champlain there. They're looking at a TMDL being implemented there. So Vermont has implemented a stewardship program that uses resource stewardship as its base evaluation. So if you meet those blue lines, or it's 90%, if you're within 90% of the blue lines and have a plan to get you over that line, it's a right to farm type of program that they make there, so you don't have to change your business because of the TMDL that's going to be put in place there. And you're also allowed to use it in your marketing there for your products in Vermont. So we're not saying that you have to use resource stewardship as the end-all be-all sustainability program, but what we are saying is if you've got information within NRCS that you've already worked with, why can't we use that for other programs? Why can't you use your own information? It's your info. Let's make it easier for you to participate in these other types of programs. So that's what we've been doing there. And then our last one, but certainly not least, is our National Association of NACD program. And I will turn it over to you to talk about that.
Okay. Thank you, Aaron. So with NACD, we have a Trailblazers program for our sets, and we have a few Trailblazers in the room. One that is going to share with us his work with our set. And basically the program just recognizes them as early adopters of the tool by both their district conservationist and the Conservation District Board Chair. And we have a template for a press release so that it can be highlighted in local news as well. So today I should also mention, in the last few months, we've been working with a few of our soil health champions and promoting the tool and utilizing the tool. And so one of them, Dan Diaz, is here today. If you want to come up, Dan. And he's going to share from the perspective of the landowner how our set has benefited him. So Dan is from Lena, Illinois. He didn't have a background in farming, but really liked the outdoors and nature and wanted to get involved. And so over time, he's built up a farm, and he'll talk more about that as well.
Thanks, Laura. Good morning. Good morning. Laura's exactly right. So I'm a landowner, a soil health champion, and I guess a trailblazer now. I've enjoyed it. Actually, I think the kind of the trailblazer part started out with Aaron and Laura reaching out, and Beth Mason reaching out Last summer, the Soil Conservation Society had a meeting in Madison, Wisconsin, which is relatively close to where I live, and they wanted to have somebody who had some land that we could do an RSET on and demonstrate the results and kind of show what the tool was used for. So I accepted the challenge and kind of went down the path. So today, I'd like to talk to you for a few minutes about about my journey in conservation and also about the use and tie-in of the RSET tool evaluation that we did. So we're up here in the northwest corner of Illinois. Started farming to Laura's point in 2000. My first farm in the year 2000. I had some land ownership background in our family history. My wife had production agriculture background, basically going back to coming out both from Germany, generations ago. And there was one stipulation that she put on me was that as long as we're not milking cows, she was in it. And that's because she has milk cow. So, Laura, excuse me.
Yeah, would you like the clicker?
I can
Just go right.
Okay, so
The other right?
the other right?
It wasn't just me.
Yeah.
Sorry. Oh. You just want to hold on.
So, I kind of need the cue, sorry.
I just had to get to the right. Okay. Go for it.
There we go. Okay, so again, no production ag background. We purchased the farm obviously with with the intent of the farm paying for itself. A little background on that: it was seeded down into an expired CRP acreage and some permanent pasture. So my first thought was, well, it was only expired for a year, so I'll go to the NRCS, go to FSA, and just request an extension. And thought, well, okay, we'll get a little income off the CRP acres. Well, didn't happen, so boom, we got the one on farm. My background's in engineering. I've got a background in operations, project management, so this started to be a real project from the get-go. And really, just deep love of the outdoors. I spent a lot of time in the outdoors. My integration or my experience with conservation was, fishing out my hand or a shotgun, walking land. So, the farm history. Purchased farm in 2000. The farm was planned to be self-sustaining. Of course, sometimes that happens, sometimes that doesn't. The farm was 100% classified as highly erodible land. So you guys, some of you that have driven through Illinois may wonder how that happens in Illinois. We do have a couple hills. My farm happens to be on one of them. But it was really in poor shape. It was a combination of poorly managed permanent pasture and really recently expired CRP acres with a lot of conservation issues. There was some pre-existing erosion problems on the farm that were just kind of dreadful. I mean, we had 8-foot deep gullies, 20 feet wide that weren't, seeded the CRP down, but never really did anything about the other problems with it. So we, kind of not knowing what we were getting into, we got into that. So, with that said, I started out obviously not knowing anything. I started out working with every agency that I possibly could get a hold of. Stevenson County Ag, NRCS, working with Soil and Water Conservation District, USDA obviously, and then throughout the course of of my involvement and learning more about conservation and getting into part of the production agriculture part, got involved with the DACHU research that was presented here yesterday on a 3-year study on cover crop. So I got into cover crops very early in the process, and had done some CSB acres and practices, and really embraced that. And then also now working with Nacd on the Soil Health Champion Network and the RSET Trailblazers. So again, we conducted the RSET analysis, I guess it was September last year, and wanted to share the results. So to kind of give you an idea of how the farm lays out, it's a number of very small fields, like I say, all 100% highly erodible. So, you know, when it started out, you can kind of see the, you know, the timing. In 2003, we established some waterways to control some, you know, serious erosion problems on that part of the farm. And along with that, you know, while we were taking care of some of the, you know, CRP issues, I basically, you know, after we finished that, I had the guy keep the bulldozer there and clean up some of the non-CRP issues, clean up some of the eroded waterways that we had in permanent pasture, and you know, kind of went at it with, you know, some resources and some not. Added some grass, some contour strips, added some filter strips, put in a riparian buffer as time went on. So trying to use the tools that I thought were available and applicable to the conservation concerns that I identified myself, and, you know, working with NRCS. But it was really, you know, kind of backing into, you know, what's available, what's the tool, what do I need to do, you know, how do I need to do it. So again, with the RSET analysis, and I was very, I guess, very pleased with the results. So this was the initial field benchmark, and you see that, you know, basically took a strip of the field that was contour buffered. It is, again, on a pretty significant slope. There's about a 5% or 7% slope there that you can't really tell. But, you know, in looking at my results, it came out, you know, really outstanding. And, you know, I give a lot of credit to the folks at NRCS and the folks at Soil and Water Conservation District that really helped guide me on that conservation journey. But I think that the affirmation of the RSET tool is that it's the answer at the back of the book. It's, you know, you go to school and, you know, they give you the odd answers, you know, you do the problem, you figure out whether you did the problem right. You know, I would say that, you know, that this is the ability to go to the back of the book and say, here's my problem. You know, I've got a water quality issue. What can I do about it? What are the options? And now I've got the answers. You know, the answer is here's what I can do, and then the programs, you know, really, you know, tee into that. So I can't say enough about, you know, about how well I think that this tool was thought out and designed. I think it's going to be a great resource going forward. So again, this gives me some additional alternatives. So you can see, you know, again on the right, what are the things that I can do to bump my scores up and bump my conservation practice up even more? And Aaron talking about that. So I'm not going into all the details on the farm, but again, it gives me that next step of my conservation journey. And, you know, what can I do? How can I do it? Nutrient management wise, you know, one of the big things was, you know, nitrogen application instead of going, you know, anhydrous, you know, trying to side dress, you know, wind furrow, side dress, you know, add it as the plant needs it, things like that. So we're actually going to work on implementing that this year. And then, you know, I've gone in and renewed the CSP contract, adding some width to the filter strips and buffer strips and, you know, things like that. So I've been just actively started using this the minute it came out to keep improving things. So a couple of takeaways. I think it's a great tool. I'm really pleased to see it. I think it's great for producers, and I think it's going to be great for conservation. So, you know, thanks to everybody that was involved in generating this. So I think, you know, again, the CRP, the CSP, and the EQIP programs are, you know, in the past they required operators to know what their issues were and what they, what practice they were going to use to reduce those issues. And I think now, you know, again, you've got an answer at the back of the book. You've got the ability to, you know, do that analysis and say, you know, here it is. Here's where I need to go. You know, major categories of analysis, and Aaron did a great job on covering that. You know, the checklist provides guidance on improving the current standards versus having to guess at the goals. You know, you kind of say, look, if I do this, this, and this, it's going to take me here, as opposed to having to guess where I'm going to end up at, and, you know, and what's that going to do for my operation. And I think the other thing that I was really pleased to see, and it is because I hunt and I'm an outdoorsman, is that the tool was really all encompassing. It wasn't just crop management. It wasn't, you know, what am I doing with my, you know, with my soils. It about sustainability, and yet you see farms that, you know, have basically chisel plowed everything, you know, they're chisel plowing around fence rows, they're, you know, they're not managing their soil quality, but they're not managing any habitat for, you know, wildlife, and I personally consider that, you know, kind of a big form of a quality operation. And then I think the other thing is that it just keeps producers thinking about all aspects of conservation, you know, and that should really, that's a great emphasis, you know. It's not something where, you know, you're really just looking at how do I get another, you know, 3 bushels an acre. It's about soil health, it's about wildlife health, it's about water quality, it's about everything that's important to, you know, to really society, you know, as opposed to just, you know, production. So, and David said it well. I think, you know, habitat above and below the ground. You know, how do you do that? And again, I just can't say enough about the tool. I think it's a great tool, and it's worked out very well for me. And I'm really looking forward to moving forward with it as it evolves. So we've got some forestry practices on the farm as well, and looking forward to the forestry piece that coming out, and you know, kind of going from there. So. I guess a pretty quick overview. Again, started with no knowledge or experience in production ag, and a little bit of conservation experience. And again, I have to thank really everybody here in this room, Nacd, and all the folks that I've worked with on my journey for for helping me out and providing those resources and that information to to really take our operation to where it is today. And again, I've utilized those resources over the years. The farm's really, I think, evolved into a highly managed and productive, conservation practice intensive property. And I've tried to reach out. We've done some field days with Soil and Water Conservation District. A bit more on cover crops so far than anything. But after this event and being here, I think the next piece of it is I want to reach out on the other conservation practices. We take the junior college kids the soil classes through and talk about cover crops and soil health, but I'd like to talk to them about pollinator habitat and grass waterways and riparian buffers and that type of thing. So I think that's a nice segue. Again, keep wildlife in your priority. Think habitat above and below the ground, and enjoy what you're doing. It's been a great experience and a great ride, and just enjoy it immensely.
I think it's clear to see why Dan is a soil health champion. So we're very thankful for him. Mike Brown has also run RSET on his farm, and he's a soil health champion. So he has a few words, and then we'll soon get you over to get some coffee.
Did you catch that few words? Because I know I was supposed to be done 12 minutes ago. I get it. So I'm going to be very, 24 years ago I bought my farm. 10 years later I decided I needed some help, so I got married. That's okay, I was really kind of fond of it. 4 years ago, my mother-in-law moved in with us. She's now 92, and at 92, tact goes out the window. I have learned that. And the point that Mary is my wife is not just the love of my life. She's a wonderful help to me on the farm. She's a hard worker. And she and I came in from working on the farm one day, and her mother walks up to her and she goes, "Did you really count on all this when you?" And I'm like, "Florence, I'm standing here and I'm paying all the bills." But the point being is we lease out part of our ground, not all of it. But when I first heard about RSET was in that first meeting back in January 2015, and Aaron gave a presentation on it, and it just really turned me on. I was fascinated by it, and I wouldn't leave these guys alone. So to shut me up, and because I'm fairly close to DC, they came out to the farm, and they brought an army out there, folks from DC, because it was early on in the process. Folks from DC, folks from our state office, and folks from the field office. And I told them when they came that, I'd fire the grill up, we'd have lunch, we'd go through this, because then
That's why you have an army.
Yeah. The input process took a little longer than it does now. But we did that, and again, you may remember my mother-in-law at the time said, "Did you count on feeding all these people?" But I was kind of thumping my chest because Mary and I have worked really hard on our farm over the years, and we thought we had a real showplace until Aaron came along and took the wind out of my sails. And you know, all in all, we did. I think you saw the chart of it earlier. All in all, we did pretty well, but there were a few places where we needed to improve. And that information was invaluable to me because we had a conservation plan on the farm, you know, from years ago. We thought we were doing everything exactly right. What we figured out, thanks to RSET, was we still needed to make some improvements. But having that visual of that graph and that benchmark, the blue line, made it very easy for us to choose the options we wanted to do. But I know a lot of folks in the room, and those of you who know me know that I'm just a little bit competitive. But there was no way that blue line was going to beat me. And Aaron, write this down. The thing I like most about RSET is, in this day and age, we talk about sustainability all the time. And it's a big issue, and it's going to continue to be a big issue. And RSET, are you ready?
Ready.
Here's your quote. RSET takes the ambiguity out of sustainability. And that's what I like about it most. And I'll sit down.